The Truck Stop. Written by Joseph Quinn. Featuring Arrow Buddy. Good evening. My name's Theo, and thanks for taking the time to read my story. I'm a long-haul truck driver. Been doing it for about 10 years now. I usually deliver big refrigeration units along the East Coast and spend most of my days out on the road. It may sound like a horrible job to a lot of people, but I like it. I've always enjoyed driving, but driving a big rig takes it to another level. You are truly the king of the road when you're driving that thing. Another reason I dig the job, they pay me so much. I'm only 32, and I paid off a house and 2 trucks. Also, I get to listen to great music all day long. I kinda dig that. Best part about any job is when you're wrapping up the day, and that goes for the truckers too. I usually deliver the units from New York down to Florida, so it's usually a 3-day trip. I spend most nights sleeping in the cabin of my rig, which has a queen-size bed, TV, sofa, fridge. Basically, it's an apartment jammed into a box. Truckers have these places we call truck stops. It's gas stations, diners, taverns, motels, or whatever. Basically, it's just a place with a big-ass parking lot. And they don't mind us parking our rigs there. Anyway, I usually stop at a diner or tavern and have a big-ass dinner before I call it a night. But the other night, something weird happened. I mean, really fucking weird. I was on my way back to New York. It was really late, about 1:30 a.m. I was getting hungry and tired, so I decided to stop at the next diner I passed. I drove on for a few more minutes until I saw the welcoming neon lights of a place called Peggy's All Night Diner. I pulled my truck around back and began to park. There were about 15 other 18-wheelers in the lot. Pretty busy night, I thought to myself, as I backed the rig into an open space. After I put the truck in park and climbed out of the cabin, I took a nice long stretch. You have no idea how good that feels after sitting on your ass for 12 straight hours. So, as I'm stretching, I'm kinda checking this place out. Other than the lights on at the diner, it's totally dark in the parking lot. Also, the entire property was surrounded by a forest, so it kind of had a creepy vibe to begin with. I hear a few people laughing near one of the other trucks, and that settled my nerves a bit, not feeling so alone. So, I grab my wallet and head towards the diner for a nice big meal. This part isn't super important, so I'll just give you a quick summary. The restaurant was pretty much a dive. Hubcaps and license plates littered the walls and old school country music echoed from the jukebox. There were just a few other people sitting in booths and eating, but they all seemed content and didn't even look my way. My waitress was a sweet old lady. Kinda felt bad that she still had to run this late shift in her ripe years. I ordered meatloaf and mashed potatoes, and enjoyed every last bit of it. I knew I'd sleep great after a meal like that, so I thanked the waitress, tipped her 40, figured she could use a little love at this time of night, and headed back to the truck. As I walked across the parking lot, I noticed a few more trucks had pulled in, leaving their engines idling to use their ACs on this hot night. I feel like I'm camping whenever I spend the night out in these rural parking lots. Just another reason I love the job. After last night, though, I don't know if I'll ever get that feeling back. The only feelings I have now are fear and dread. I unlocked my truck and climbed into the cabin. It's super cozy in there, and tonight was no different. I changed into a t-shirt and shorts and climbed into bed. As I was laying in the dark cabin of the truck, belly full and sleep creeping on, I remember thinking to myself, Life doesn't get much better than this. And I suppose I fell asleep soon after that. A loud noise jerked me awake. The only light in the cabin was my red digital clock, which read 3:43 a.m. I sat up and waited to see if the noise was real or just part of a dream. Something was slamming on my truck door. I tried to peer out the window, but couldn't see anything or anyone. I was too high up. So I cracked the door open and said, "Hello?" I heard her before I saw her.
Hey there.
A voice drifted up to me. The lights on my truck door gave off a glow as I opened it further, and I saw a lady, probably in her 40s, standing right below the passenger side of my truck. She was pretty too. I asked, can I help you?" To which she responded,
Depends. You have a cigarette?
I was immediately annoyed. This chick really had the audacity to knock on a stranger's door at this time of night? But before I could say, "Fuck off," and slam the door in her face, she said,
I'll make it worth your time.
and shot me a look that made my heart start racing. Whew. I don't smoke often, but I do keep a pack of cigs in the glove box in case I get a craving. I tell her, normally I don't talk to strange women, but I've got a good feeling about you. Hang on, sweetie, let me get you a smoke. I scrounged around and found the pack. They were probably stale, but beggars can't be choosers, right? I pulled out Camel menthol and handed it to her from the opening in the door. She said,
Thank you, handsome. I don't suppose you've got a light to go along with it.
She giggled and gave me another flirty look. I dug out a lighter and handed it down to her. She thanked me again and lit her cigarette. As she smoked, we were quiet. I just looked at her for a moment, and she looked back at me. The same look in her eyes, a look of desire. She took one more big drag off the cigarette. Then she said the words that would change my world forever.
So, are you gonna invite me in?
All I did was nod. I guess I was in a daze. I was tired and excited and didn't really know what the fuck was going on. But this girl was pretty hot, and nothing like this ever happened to me before. I had to see where this goes. She climbed into the cabin and immediately started kissing me and clawing at my shirt. I know, I couldn't believe it either. I tried to say, "Who are you?" but my words were muffled by the makeout session. She just kissed me deeply and rubbed her hands all over my body. This was turning into the best night of my life. I tried to touch her body, but she kept holding my hands back. She said,
Not yet. Wait for it.
and continued to kiss and caress me. After another 30 seconds, I said, "Let me touch you. I want you so bad. I can't wait." Then she stopped. She looked at me as if she was completely distraught. She said in a hushed voice,
I really like you.
This was a complete stranger that climbed into my truck, and I didn't really know what to say. "I really like you too," is what came out of my mouth.
Do you really?
She responded, "Yes," I answered enthusiastically, desperate to see where this would go.
You can have me, but I just have to tell you one thing.
She turned away from me in what seemed like embarrassment. The only light was from the red numbers on the alarm clock. It made the back of her dirty blonde hair look blood red. I said, "Yeah, you can tell me anything," finding it hard to hide my excitement in the moment. What she said next was unexpected.
I've never been with someone like you before.
Her long hair hanging over her shoulders and face, slouched in what seemed like complete sadness. I put my hand on her shoulder and said softly, "What do you mean, sweetheart? Like a stranger? I've never done anything like this either, but this just feels so right to me." After I said this, she gently grabbed my hand that was resting on her shoulder and began to turn towards me. What I saw was more horrifying than anything you can imagine. The face turning towards me was not a face at all. It was rows and rows of gnashing teeth and two distraught eyes above them staring at me. I jumped backwards away from the monster, but its hands clasped tightly around mine still. I tried to pull away with all of my might, but it just held me there and stared at me. I screamed. I hate to admit that. I screamed bloody murder. It was probably only a minute or so, but it felt like I screamed for an hour. Nobody came. All it did was hold my hand and stare at me, teeth grinding against one another, scraping noises coming from this thing's mouth. At a loss for other options, I did the only thing left. I pleaded. I begged for my life. I begged it to let me go. I begged it for mercy. Then I locked eyes with it. I didn't look away. I stared the monster down and said one last time, "Please." It stared back, its eyes horrifyingly human. Then it let go, and we sat there in silence and continued to stare at each other. Its eyes filled with tears, and then it left. I can't sleep. All I can think about is what happened, so I figured I'd share it on here. Take care of yourselves, everyone. We live in a wild, wild world.